What's up, YouTube? Mike here with another episode of Talk to the Mic, and I am here today with Jarrod.
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Thank you. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
So, tell us a bit about yourself.
So, Mike, I've been playing the saxophone a long time. Since I started in grade 7 in 1987, actually, back in Montreal. And it was always something I really enjoyed. I kept it up on the side after all these years. I studied in university. I studied with professors. I played in bands every time when I spent some time in Edmonton doing my master's degree. I still played with jazz bands, moved back to Montreal, couldn't find a job, moved to Ottawa to get a government job. And as soon as I moved here, I started playing in bands around Ottawa. But it was always something I wanted to do on the side. Never full-time. Actually, you probably know a lot of full-time musicians, eh, Mike?
Yeah, a little bit.
It's a tough gig, man. So I never wanted to do it full-time. I wanted to get the steady day job so that I could pursue my passion for music on the side. Not having to rely on it. But after working in many different departments in the government for many years, I finally said, enough's enough. In 2011, I decided to go into full-time. So it's even more difficult for me when I was first starting out because I don't write music and I don't teach. So I could play. I'm a good reader, like a studio musician.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, one, it's have to go into music in anything you play. Two, it's even more difficult because my options were more limited than most. So what did I do? I opened up a really unique music group called Sax Appeal. And as you can see from the pictures, and you can hear some of the clips later on, it's an all-saxophone band. Most people have never heard of a group like this.
No, it feels like it's the first.
It really is something. So how am I going to get gigs if nobody's ever heard of a band? Let's say you're getting married or a cocktail reception and you need live music. You might get a regular jazz quartet, like a sax, guitar, drums, piano. But all saxophones? No, you're never going to think about it. Even musicians very rarely have heard of a saxophone quartet. So I started getting involved in the business community, the wedding industry, getting out and speaking to every hotel, every restaurant, every wedding planner, event planner in Ottawa to get gigs. It turned into another business of mine called D-Sax, which we might have a chance to chat about later. And it really helped establish myself as a musician here in Ottawa.
That's fascinating. Like I said, that's a whole jazz quartet, like saxophone quartet. That's, again, I've never heard that before.
It's very unique. Yeah. So we also do a lot of classical music because the saxophone is very versatile. We can play all styles. So some of our clips on YouTube, we have Christmas music, classical music, funk music, rock, jazz, so many different types of styles.
That's amazing. So why the saxophone, and what type of saxophone do you play?
So it's a good question. There are different types of saxophones. I started off on the baritone saxophone. Actually, that's me right there. It's the large saxophone. When you think of the human voice, you think of a baritone voice. It's very loud and deep. And to me, that was the best saxophone because I just love playing the low end. I also play a lot of alto saxophone, which is this guy over here. That's an alto saxophone. Mm-hmm. And I also play tenor saxophone, which is this other one here.
Okay.
And the only one that I don't have is the soprano saxophone. It looks like a little clarinet. Some of your people might have recognized Kenny G. Well, Kenny G plays often the soprano saxophone. But putting them all together, it's a very cool sound because there's nowhere to hide. It's as if you're soloing the entire time.
That's true, and you got a mix of all four too. So
that's right.
It's not just two people playing the same one. Everybody's got a different sound.
That's right, and a lot of times when we offer duets, we're playing two alto saxophones.
Oh, okay.
So we're very versatile with what we do, and it depends on the gig. If you have 50 people for a nice cocktail reception, 4 musicians might be a little too much, so we offer 2.
Awesome.
So it's pretty neat.
Now, how many gigs would you do per year, per se?
Oh, thousands.
Oh,
no,
wow.
no, I'm kidding. So we have a list of every gig we've ever done on the website at saxappeal.ca, and we're averaging, gosh, it's been a while since I looked, we probably do about 60 to 80 gigs a year.
That's awesome. That's
so
amazing.
It's a very active ensemble, but I also book other entertainment as well. So somebody says to me, hey, Jarrod, I need a bagpiper. I need a funk band, a rock band, a Celtic, I need a jazz, whatever you need. I know many musicians here in Ottawa, very professional musicians, so I'm known as an agent as well. So I book. But if people really want to make their event distinctive and unique, then you need to get one of the most unique bands in town.
Awesome. So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to play a couple of highlights of your performances, and we will be right back.
Enjoy. Thanks, everyone.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. We just listened to a lot of awesome little clips and your performances.
Oh, thank you. I hope everybody enjoyed them.
So now, out of all these performances, whether it's like a wedding or a gathering, family gathering, an event, which ones do you prefer? Which ones give you that extra jolt?
Well, it's interesting, Mike. When we play, we usually are the background entertainment for an event. We're not usually the front and center, and you hear a lot of artists, they want to be, the front runner. They want to be on stage and getting everybody's attention. To me, some of the best gigs we've had are when we're just ignored, actually. And I'm perfectly fine with that. Okay. Some of my favorite gigs we do every year for the last 5 years is the Gatineau Hot Air Balloon Festival, the Festival de Montgolfière in Gatineau. And we play every morning as the balloons lift up. Have you ever been to a balloon festival?
Oh, yeah, I've been to a few, actually.
It's very cool. So there's like 60 or 70 huge hot air balloons, all different sizes and shapes. And they start inflating and lifting off one at a time to our music. It's a very cool experience awesome. For that. Some of the other events we like to do is every year for the last about 4 or 5 years in Manotick. They have a Women's Day, and actually it's coming up in early November. And so the caption is Women's Day in Manotick has Sax Appeal. It's very cute.
I like that.
And we walk up and down Main Street, play a couple of tunes, go into a boutique or a restaurant, a little shop, and then move on. Happy Women's Day, and we announce it everywhere.
Okay.
We've had festivals. We played at the Jazz Festival years ago, to small little intimate cafes where or store openings, grand openings. We've done all different types.
Fascinating. And I've heard you play too at an ESAX event.
Oh, yeah, really yeah. Good, so. Sax Appeal always plays there, absolutely.
So now I'm going to ask you my bucket list question.
Sure.
So if you can choose 3 things that you haven't done yet in life that you want to do before you die, what would they be and why?
That's a big question. I would say, well, I've been very lucky growing up to have the chance to travel a lot. So I'm an archaeologist by education. Mm-hmm. Between archaeology and music, I have traveled a lot. But I would always like to do more. I mean, my work now doesn't give me much time for time off to travel. Mm-hmm. Even going to Montreal for a weekend might be a little tough. But I'd like to do some more traveling. And even playing my saxophone, I toured Europe a couple times with a band years ago, Eastern Canada and Western Canada. So getting on the road a bit more with the band is a lot of fun.
Fascinating. Yeah. Always trying something new, different area, you get different crowds and see how it is. Right. So.
Yeah. And it's just like new experiences. I think one of the reasons why I'm so well-rounded was when I was younger, I did have the chance to travel, experience cultures, and really be on my own for a while. And it really helped me learn.
Awesome. So now I'm going to ask you a question that a special guest asked me to ask you.
Yeah.
How, because you mentioned ESAX, and we'll talk about that later in another thing. You also do Sax Appeal, and you have other things. You're campaigning. How do you balance everything together and still stay sane?
That's a good question. Well, it helps that I work all the time. This is not work for me. It's a passion. I love creating things out of nothing, making life easier and better for others. So that's why I ran for city council here in Ottawa. That's why I started Sax Appeal, was to make other people's lives more fun at events. I started ESAX to bring together the community. But I'm a workaholic. I work all the time. Although I do have some videos on the ESAX channel talking about work-life balance. It's really important to unplug once in a while. Turn the lights off, take the Fedora off. I don't wear it in the house too often. And it's just a way to disassociate. Although it's easier said than done. So I love working on this stuff because I always felt I'm building towards something. So the last time I watched a movie, well, I don't remember. We don't even have cable anymore. It's just, that's a tough question for me. You know what they say is do what I say, not say what I do. Mm-hmm. It's one of those situations.
Okay, it's a good answer though. Yeah. So you mentioned the Fedora. I gotta ask, what started the Fedora? What's the story behind the Fedora?
There is a bit of a story there, Mike. So when I first started the band, and if you look at some of the older clips and pictures, there's no hats. Mm-hmm. About 2012, 2013, my aunt came to Ottawa, and she said, "Hey, Jarrod, you play a lot of jazz music." I said, "Yeah, Auntie Helene, I play a lot of music here. Why don't you wear a fedora?" I'd never worn a hat before. I had no idea. So we went to Walmart, grabbed the first fedora we could find, and when I started walking around town with it, people stare at you. You don't find too many people wearing hats.
True.
And I was very shy. Believe it or not, I was shy. And actually, I have a couple of videos of the mayor and a few other people talking about this. And the mayor didn't believe for a second that I was shy, but I was. And I realized after a few months of wearing the fedora, originally to get gigs and promote the jazz side, that it's part of my personal brand. And I realized the hard way that when you're starting up a business, you want to stay in business, you have to brand yourself. You have to walk into a room and be instantly recognizable. And I realized early on that this is me. This is who I am. And I owned it. I just started learning how to appreciate the hat and become such a big part of me. So when I walk into a room now, everybody knows me. It's really cool. I'm walking down the street and people recognize the hat. I might remember their name, but they know who I am. And especially when I ran for city council, I decided to keep the hat as part of my brand.
That's good. It's always good to have a brand.
Absolutely.
Mine's my beard.
So. It's very cool.
So if anybody wants to get to know more about anything that you do or get to know more about you,
sure.
Do you want to give them all the social media means to do it?
How's one? Okay. JarrodGoldsmith.ca.
Perfect. Plain and simple.
Yeah, because from there you can see the Sax Appeal, you can see the e-sax, you can see the campaign, you can see, so many other things. But make it simple. JarrodGoldsmith.ca.
Perfect. Now, this question here is involving music.
Yeah.
If you can choose any artist, whether they're alive right now or they're dead, to do a collaboration with, who would it be and why?
Oh, very cool. Well, I've grown up listening to a couple of artists. Gene Pitney. He was really big in the 60s and 70s. He was a he was a pop star. And I really loved his music and had a really big influence on me. He doesn't do jazz. But to be able to collaborate with somebody like him and Chris de Burgh, another huge idol of mine. I've grown up listening to his music. But my favorite jazz artist is Gerry Mulligan.
Okay.
He was very well known as a baritone saxophone player. Such a smooth sound. And he passed away a couple of years ago. Actually, I think back in the late 90s, I had the opportunity to either travel to Europe with a band and then work at an archaeological site and for a summer, or stay in Montreal and see him play at the Jazz Festival. I decided to go to Europe for the summer, but then he passed away shortly after that, so I missed seeing him in person. But I have dozens of his albums, and it's really been a big influence on my playing.
Awesome. Now, do you have anybody you want to say thank you to?
Well, a lot of what I'm doing now couldn't be done without my partner, Sylvie. So Sylvie Demers. She really helps appreciate what I do and works a lot behind the scenes. So we were talking earlier about work-life balance, and we say, if you can only duplicate yourself, well, I think Sylvie is my duplicate. She also rocks a fedora, by the way. And I want to thank you, Mike, for the opportunity to have here to talk to some of your people.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, well, thank you very much for doing the show.
Well, thank you very much, and I hope your family keeps playing.
Awesome. Take care.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
Yeah.